G'day. Why do you hold on to stuff? Why do I hold on to stuff? That's what I want to talk about today. There are, I wouldn't mind decluttering. I've come to a stage where I need to declutter a lot of my stuff, but I'm struggling. There's quite a few things in my home which I hold a sentimental attachment to. And this is what I want to talk about today. Actually, as I film this, I can see the two pictures up behind me. Now those two pictures are of old cars. Uh, they're advertising posters. I've owned both of these cars in the past. The one closest to me is an old 62 Consul 315. I've owned 3 or 4 of those. And the other one is a Holden Premier, about a 1964, I think, EH Holden Premier. I didn't actually own the EH or the Premier, but I did own an EJ Holden. I used to really be into classic cars. I'm not so much anymore, but I've held on to these pictures, and really they probably need to go. When I moved from New Zealand to Australia back in 2012 with my kids, prior to moving, we collected all our stuff that we had, and we decided most of it we didn't need to keep. So we sold it through garage sales and the like. Now, when I moved here, I probably only bought, I wouldn't have even been half a container load of stuff with me. It was mainly beds and drawers and things like that, plus 9 boxes of kid stuff. Now, these 9 boxes I had put together. They were full of the kids' old school books, certificates, awards, even the small awards for, being great that day at school. It was a teacher's award. Anyway, I held on to all these things and I brought them over with me to Australia. 12 years later, I have most of those boxes still in my garage. My kids are all grown up, and I've said to them 2 or 3 times on 2 or 3 occasions, I've said, hey kids, come and grab your stuff. But they're not interested in it. Most of it they've gone through it, but most of it they've left. I said, Dad, it doesn't really interest us keeping the stuff. So I'm left with it. But I'm struggling to get rid of it. I have gone through a lot of the stuff, and I've thrown out a lot of their old exercise books, especially their maths books and writing books. But there are books which I've held on to because they've written, they're stories that my kids have written when they were 6 or 7, 8, maybe 9 years of age. And even though they were basic stories, it was a little bit like going back through a journal, and reading about what we as a family were doing back in those years. This is, back when my wife was alive. She died 20 years ago. So yeah, I'm struggling to get rid of that stuff. I know I need to, but it is a struggle. Another item which I've kept this item since 1974. It's a book, and it's this book here. This is Karate. I paid $46.90 for this book back in 1974. That would have been, back then, at least half of my weekly wage. I was at the time I was quite embarrassed about paying that much for this book, and so I wrote another price underneath the proper price. Just in case anyone asked me what I paid for the book, I wrote the price of $20.65, and that's what I was going to tell them. I don't think anyone did question me about what I paid for the book, but it was a lot of money. Why did I spend that much on a book, on one book? Well, back around that time when I was 17, myself and a mate, Simon, we went to this community dance. It was held in a hall in the area of Wainoni, I think it was. And I was new to Christchurch at the time, and neither of us, I think, really knew our areas well. But anyway, we went to this dance. We got there, and I did notice that there were a lot of security guards on duty that night. There was practically one in every corner, plus on the doors at this hall. Now, what I didn't realise was the local gang were there in numbers. They were known as the Hampshire Street Mob, and they had a reputation for beating people up, basically. Even if you Google them to this day, there are mentions of, you can find different articles about the Hampshire Street Mob on the internet today. Anyway, they decided that night that they wanted to have a bit of fun, and so they attacked me and my mate Simon. We got a bit of a hiding from them, and the police were called. Some of them were taken away. We quickly left. Now, as a result of that incident, Simon and I both joined the local karate club. Luckily, it was just around the road from where I lived at the time, and at the local YMCA. And that's when I bought this book. Now, karate, I stuck with learning different styles of karate for the next 15 or 20 years. And so it meant a lot to me. I got a lot of use out of this book. I certainly got my money's worth. But why have I got it? How many years later? 50 years later? Why have I held on to it for this long? I don't know. I guess it's just been one of those things which I've struggled to get rid of. But I have come to the conclusion that I probably should pass it on to somebody else who can get use from the book. Another thing which comes to mind is a painting. Well, it's a print of a painting, which I bought from an auction just a few years ago, back in New Zealand. I went to this auction back in New Zealand. I was over there for about 10 months. It was when my dad was not well with Alzheimer's. And I ended up staying there for quite a few months just to help mum with dad. And what I would do, at the time, I'd go to auctions and I'd buy things and then I'd sell them online for a profit. And it kind of helped make me a bit of cash while I was there. But this one picture that I purchased, I paid $6 for this picture. And it now hangs above my bed in my bedroom back here in Australia. Yes, I put it in. I was able to just fit it into my suitcase and bring it home with me. The glass did get cracked on that trip, and so I think it cost me $30 to replace the glass. But this, I have formed an emotional attachment or a sentimental attachment to this picture. And this is because not long after I brought it home to Australia, I was doing some family history research. And I found out about a great-great-grandfather of mine on my dad's side. And I found out that he was at one stage a police sergeant in the New Zealand police during the gold rush years back in the 1860s. Now, at that time, he was stationed at Dunstan in central Otago, and he actually lived in a police house in the main street of Dunstan in the late 1860s. Well, this painting, was of the main street of Dunstan during the gold rush area of the 1860s. And so all of a sudden, this picture meant a lot more to me. You know, I look at it and I think, oh, that's what people dress like. That's what the township looked like when my great-great-grandfather was policing there. And probably because I spent 20 years in the police back in New Zealand as well, you know, it meant a lot to me knowing about my great-great-grandfather. Will I ever get rid of it? Probably not. That's probably something my kids will do when I pass, as I know it won't mean anything to them. But at this stage, you know, I do hold a sentimental or an emotional attachment to it. Finally, another item I want to talk about today is known as a wool holder. Now, I don't know if anyone watching is familiar with what this is, but this was made back in would have been made back in the 1960s. I used to make these wall holders back in that time. I was lucky enough to have a teacher at school. Her name was Mrs. Lumsden. She was an elderly woman, and she taught us cane work. At the end of each day, as long as we got through our schoolwork, she would get the cane out and she would teach us how to make things like this, as well as trays, baskets, a range of different things. Well, I ended up, after having her as a teacher for a year or two, I think I may have had her for teaching me for 2 years. I ended up starting to make this stuff at home, and with mum and dad's help, they helped find buyers for it, and I ended up selling dozens, if not hundreds, of these wall holders, plus too many baskets. My dad helped cut and drill the bases, the wooden bases, and I remember we used to get all this cane delivered to our place by the truckload, plastic coated cane. And I eventually chucked it in, I think when I may have just started high school. And I got this order from a local shop for, I think it was 144 small Easter egg baskets. that broke me, and I said to mum and dad, no, that's enough, I don't want to do it anymore, and I gave it up. But anyway, I found this in an op shop back in New Zealand only 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, and it cost me $2 or $2.50. And as soon as I saw it, I just knew I had to buy it because it reminded me of what I did way back in my primary school days. And even the colours are the same colours of cane that I used. It could have been made by me, but I probably not, because it was when I was making them, I was living in a city 4 hours away from where I bought this. Anyway, these are a few things which I would struggle to get rid of, and I know they add to the clutter in my house. But yeah, I've formed an attachment to each and every one of these items, and for that reason, I think I would struggle to get rid of them, even though I know I need to get rid of stuff. I'm interested in hearing from anyone watching this video if you have a similar, if there are things that you would struggle with getting rid of, things that you might have formed an emotional or a sentimental attachment to. Please let me know. And look, thank you for watching this video. I hope it is of interest to people, and hopefully I'll see you in another video in the future. Thank you. Bye.